I have many opinions on creativity in general and game design specifically, and I've got one that I want to get out there today. Now, the video that you're seeing in the background's not totally relevant. It will become slightly relevant towards the end. It's just me doing some building in Once Human, but we'll get back to that. The thing that I want to talk about today is this statement. There is no game in existence that is fundamentally harmed by allowing players to alter the rules to have fun for them. Now, there's a couple of really important footnotes that are applied to that, 3 specifically. And the first one that I want to immediately deal with before I get into dissecting that statement is this. No game developer should ever be condemned for not explicitly supporting people changing the rules to their game. Game development is, as it's called in business theory, a zero-sum game, meaning there is a finite amount of resources that can be allocated to any game development project. Typically, these resources are time and money, which are interchangeable. You can buy time, so to speak, by hiring more people, but that just means your money is going to run out faster. You can save money by not having as many people, but of course that means it takes more time, so on and so forth. Regardless of how you manage it, there's only so much. If you spend resources on A, you are explicitly not spending resources on B. Therefore, you cannot demand a developer of a game explicitly support mods or changing the rules. It is their game, it is their creative vision. They are the ones that determine what should I spend my resources on as I am developing it. That is absolutely critical to have that out there up front. Too often it seems when you start talking about game difficulty, especially in the digital space for some reason, it goes through this horrible game of telephone where it becomes not you saying that the game wouldn't be harmed by difficulty, but rather it's a bad game because it doesn't let you mod the difficulty. That is not the case at all. A game developer has a vision, and they spend those resources to create that vision. End of discussion. That does not take away from my point that the game is not harmed by me then going and changing the rules when I go to play it. So let's start breaking down that statement. And to begin with, let's take a look at American football. Now, you can go out and download the rule book for the NFL. The 2025 rule book, the official rules from the NFL website, is a PDF of 92 pages. Interestingly enough, if you go to the NCAA website, the National Collegiate Association, Athletic Association, if I'm getting that correct, you can go to their webpage and download their rule books. And quite interestingly, the NCAA rule book for football is 258 pages long. Which rule book is correct? Which is the one true way to play football? Let's not forget also that high schools are going to be playing under yet a different set of rules. And when you go and grab a bunch of your friends to play a game of flag football, you are playing yet again under a different set of rules, all claiming to be football. And yet, I've never heard any discussion about how modifying the rules, not making high schoolers play to the same rules as professional athletes, that's a bad thing, that you are somehow cheating these poor high school students of the one true experience of football, that they are depriving themselves of the true meaning of the game. No, we don't talk like that, at least not for the physical space. All right, so some people might disagree with me that sports are games. I'll argue that all day long if you so desire, but that's not the focus here. So let's take a look at something that everyone can agree is a game. Magic the Gathering, a physical card game. that also has a lot of rule modifications. First and foremost, you've got different formats that modify the core rules of the game. The Commander format is a mod that's applied on top of the base rules of the game. Everybody loves that format. And people will further modify the rules for Commander. For example, it is very common for tournaments to require you to own the card, have the physical card that you are playing with. It will not allow you to use a 100% pure proxy card. If you want to use a card, you have to prove that you own it. But for personal games, this is not the case. For example, one of my sons got for me a proxy deck of dragons to play Commander with. He knows that I don't collect Magic the Gathering. I've played it in the past. I enjoy playing it with my sons. And so he got me that proxy deck, so that way when he comes and visits for holidays and such, we can have a game of Commander. Not legal at all in the tournament setting, but yet I don't think anyone would say that I am depriving myself of the one true experience of playing Magic the Gathering because I didn't spend hundreds and hundreds of dollars buying all of these cards. Likewise, some people will just make up cards to use with their friends. Again, no one decries this. It's your game. Play it how you want. If you want to modify the rules with your friends, go nuts. Have at it. But for some reason, when we shift over into the realm of the digital, the conversation changes. If you modify a FromSoft game, you are depriving yourself of the true experience. That's not how it should be played. You're missing the point. And my pushback to that is, well, no, I'm not. For example, let's look at Warcraft 2. I played the heck out of that game. And I had a lot of fun playing that game back when it came out. I adored it. I don't think I've ever played a single campaign of that game legitimately without cheats. I'll usually play the first 4 or 5 missions. Memory's a little hazy exactly how far I would get. And then I would start cheating. Or heck, sometimes I'd start cheating right away. And I had fun. I don't consider myself of somehow being deprived of the true Warcraft 2 experience. For me, that was the Warcraft 2 experience. I liked using the cheats and doing dumb stuff, like using nothing but peons to steamroll the map, or only build one specific unit type and win with just that unit. I would sometimes, turn on the cheats and turn on, all map visibility, almost kill the AI, and then back off and see how the AI rebuilt using the cheats, just sort of because. That's how I had fun with the game. Did me doing that retroactively remove all the fun and enjoyment that everybody else had playing the game legitimately? Did that somehow invalidate any of the tournaments that happened with that game? No, of course it didn't. That was my experience. That's how I had fun with it. It had no relevance to anybody but me. To bring it back to a more modern game, Elden Ring. The only time I have completed Elden Ring was modded. I played through, I don't know, let's just pull numbers out of the air. Let's say about 95% of my playthrough was unmodded. I pretty much got all the way up to the final 2 fights and then decided, you know what, I'm kind of tired of the game at this point. I just want to finish it, see my ending, and be done with it. And so I browsed around a little bit, downloaded a mod. I want to say that it reduced my damage by 50% and increased the damage that I did by, I think, 20%. I might be wrong on those numbers. It was nothing major. I wasn't giving myself God mode or anything. I still had to play the game, and it was still fun for me. I still had a little bit of a challenge clearing out those last 2 fights. I got to see my ending cutscene, and I had a fun conclusion to that game. Did me doing that somehow invalidate the world record for speedrunning the game? Does that somehow invalidate all of the challenge runs that YouTubers have done completing the game with ridiculous restrictions? No. It didn't do anything of the sort. That was my game. That was my experience. I had fun with it. You, person behind the screen, don't get to tell me, well, wait, no, actually, you didn't have fun. You cheated yourself of fun. Just pause for a moment and reflect on how arrogant of a statement that actually is. To go up to someone and say, that thing that you just did for entertainment, and that is important, you didn't actually like it. You didn't actually have fun going to that concert. You didn't actually have fun watching that movie because I say so. That does not make sense to me. To me, that is the height of arrogance, to go up to someone and say that. Now, this is where we get to the second little footnote to my rule. And that is, if you are playing a game competitively, all players need to be using the same rules. That is important, because you can't have true competition if the playing field is not even. This is why we have rules in physical sports about not using performance-enhancing drugs. Well, because 1, it's really bad for your body, and 2, it's an unfair advantage over the people who don't want to poison themselves. When you play Warhammer 40,000, the tabletop version, you are supposed to be using fair dice. You should not use weighted dice, because that is unfair to the competition. Everyone needs to have the same expectation of when you roll a d6, there is an even distribution of the numbers 1 through 6. Going back to Elden Ring, would it be fair for me to mod the game so that I take 50% less damage and do 20% more damage, and then try to post something to speedrun.com trying to claim a world record for speedrun? No, that would not be fair. Because now it's not my game. Now I'm entering a competition, and I have to play by the same rules as everybody else. When you go to play a game of Battlefield, insert number here, it is very important that you are not using mods or cheats. Because even if it's not an official tournament, there's no cash prize on the line here or something, if you are in a multiplayer game, by the very nature of it, it's competitive. You're trying to see who can beat out the other person, which team can beat out the other team. And so everybody needs to be playing by the same rules. That is when it becomes important. That is why we have an official rule book for the NFL. This is why we have an official rule book for the NCAA. This is why a Magic the Gathering tournament will have an official rules posting. Warhammer 40,000 will have tournament packets that explicitly spell out what are the specific rules for this tournament. How are we handling terrain and all of the other nuances that go into that type of war game. Notice, however, you're still modifying the rules. Every tournament for Warhammer 40,000 can have different rules. They are not all the same. Different Magic the Gathering tournaments can have different rulings on things, depending on what type of tournament it is. If it's just a local tournament that's not concerned about points, they might have different rules from the official tournaments that qualify you for the World Championships. So people are still modifying the rules. It's just that in a competition, we're all in agreement on what those modifications are. Now, finally, the third footnote: it is not always practical for a digital game to support rule modifications. This mainly applies to multiplayer games. This sometimes applies to single-player games, but that's usually a consequence of how the engine bundles information together rather than any actual necessity. But if a game is multiplayer online, it becomes very problematic to allow user modifications. It's not impossible. That's why I have Once Human running in the background. We'll get to that in a moment. But take something like, say, Final Fantasy XIV or World of Warcraft. It would be problematic for those companies to support user-created servers and allow users to make modifications to those rule sets. Running something like an actual MMO, something that is designed to have hundreds, if not thousands, if not tens of thousands of people connected to it at the same time, this is not something your average person can do. It's certainly possible, as proven by the existence of private WoW servers, but it is a non-trivial task, and to officially support that would be very draining on a company's time and resources. And to be quite honest, I do not fault any company for not wanting to touch that with a 10-foot pole. Now, depending on your game, it can be done. For example, Once Human. It is an online-only game. There is no offline mode. But they do have private servers. Now, these weren't available on launch. They came later. But basically, it allows me to spin up my own private server. They've got a bunch of sliders exposed for adjusting resource gather rates, enemy damage, do I want everything unlocked or not, so on and so forth, and allows for people to create a server for how they want to enjoy the game. Now, this works for Once Human because of how it's structured. Everything's structured around the scenario concept, and it's not just one continuous existing world. You play a scenario, that scenario ends, and then you move your character to a different scenario, whether it's literally just repeating the same scenario or a different scenario. I said that really badly, but regardless, you move your character from scenario to scenario. And that makes private servers workable, because what I'm doing is just spinning up my own custom scenarios effectively. So to wrap up and summarize, there is no game in existence, period, that is fundamentally harmed by allowing users to alter the rules. With the understanding of, if it's competitive, obviously everyone needs to agree upon the rules being used. It is not always practical in the case of digital games to allow for rule modifications, and absolutely, developers should never be demanded to support modification of rules. But at the end of the day, if it's a single-player experience, it does not harm anything. And the next time you're about to type into chat or Discord or wherever it happens to be, oh no, you didn't have fun playing Silksong because you modified the game to be easy, just remember how it would make you feel if someone came up to you and said, oh, that thing that you just had fun with? No, you didn't actually have fun with it because I said so. Have a good day and enjoy your games.